This is 4-year-old Osama before malnutrition struck. And this is the child today. He's half the weight he was.
Osama now, just the bone and the skin is over the bone. The chest and the abdomen. This is one of the worst presentation of malnutrition that we have ever seen in our life. This is one of the examples.
Young children in Gaza are starving to such an extent that the UN has warned up to 14,000 babies could die over the next 2 days if they don't get food aid. The other big threat to their lives, of course, is the relentless bombing campaign, which reports suggest has claimed at least 140 lives over the last 24 hours alone. Many more people are injured, like 6-year-old Aziza. She has scabies and a blast injury and has been living on the street since an explosion a fortnight ago made her an orphan. She's one of the many patients being treated by a British surgeon, Dr. Victoria Rose.
There are so many more casualties, so many children injured now. Plus, we have the issues with malnutrition, the fact that nobody's had food for 78 days. It's the worst it's ever been.
Dr. Rose says the two world leaders who matter most are not being forthright about how grim the situation really is.
It's just got to stop. I mean, it's just nuts. We've got to stop this now. We can't go on like this. I can't believe I'm watching Netanyahu and Trump, and I think they're talking about a completely different place, because what's happening here is not what they're telling you.
Tens of thousands of Gazans are again fleeing what will soon be war zones. Among them, the Najjar family, who our cameraman first met in the skeletal remains of their house last summer. They had decided that despite the absence of walls and windows, home was preferable to a tent. A precarious existence for Sarah, who is blind. After clinging on for 9 months, they've now been forced to jump-start the car and to leave.
My words here is not can express my feeling, and everything happened now. It's very hard.
They headed to the Al-Mawasi area, where high demand means they struggle to find anywhere to stay. Sarah may be blind, but she knows what's going on, the tragedy she's part of.
All of people really is tired now, and you can't see them. The picture can explain everything more than the words, actually, in this time.
John Irvine, News at 10, Tel Aviv.
Britain's response to Israel's military offensive in Gaza was spelled out to MPs by the Foreign Secretary David Lammy. History will judge Israel, he said, blocking aid, expanding the war. This is indefensible. He suspended trade talks, imposed sanctions on Israeli settlers in the West Bank, and the Israeli ambassador was called into the Foreign Office.
With starvation now stalking the exhausted, desperate men, women and particularly children of Gaza, the British government is signalling its tolerance for Israel's action is over.
I want to put on record today that we're horrified by the escalation from Israel. The recent announcement that Israel will allow a basic quantity of food into Gaza, a basic quantity, is totally and utterly inadequate.
The UN says only a few dozen of the hundreds of aid trucks needed have entered Gaza since yesterday. The Foreign Secretary summoned the Israeli ambassador to the Foreign Office and announced trade negotiations with Israel will be suspended. In the Commons, he made this direct demand.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, end this blockade now and let the aid in. Regrettably, Madam Deputy Speaker, despite our efforts, this Israeli government's egregious actions and rhetoric have continued. They are isolating Israel from its friends and partners around the world, undermining the interests of the Israeli people, and damaging the image of the State of Israel in the eyes of the world.
It's all part of a coordinated effort to apply pressure on Israel by some of its closest allies, the UK, France and Canada, writing in a joint statement. We will not stand by while the Netanyahu government pursues these egregious actions. If Israel does not cease the renewed military offensive and lift its restrictions on humanitarian aid, we will take further concrete actions in response, provoking this furious reaction.
This is a proud nation, an independent nation, fighting on its existence, and we will not get any dictates from outside with regard to our national security.
But in the Commons, MPs from all sides were asking this.
Will this actually stop what is happening in Gaza, or is it too late?
Does the front bench need us to beg for the lives of those Palestinian children before they'll trigger this concrete action?
What we're getting today is stronger words, but with limited action.
The government did not want to specify what further measures it will take if Israel does not choose to listen. In Gaza, there is no longer any time to wait. Romilly Weeks, News at 10.
Let's return to John in Tel Aviv. Is Israel likely to listen to any of this outrage from the UK and elsewhere?
Good evening, Nina. I think it's telling that the only statement put out by the Prime Minister's office here tonight made no mention of European or British criticism, but instead sought to defend Israel's position by saying this country agrees to an American ceasefire proposal that Hamas is rejecting. That tells you that the Israelis really only care what the Americans think. And while Donald Trump has done certain things to make this country feel quite isolated of late, he's been reticent when it comes to criticising the Israelis over aid or the daily slaughter on the Gaza Strip. As well as that, Nina, I think Mr. Trump is to some extent to blame for what's happening. His rash statements about emptying Gaza and making it a Riviera were music to the ears of the extremists in the Israeli government who think the US president has given them the green light to flatten the Strip, kick out all its inhabitants and build new settlements. Mr. Netanyahu is going along with that plan because he relies on those same extremists for his governing majority. And the polls here suggest that were the war to end, the extremists would collapse the government and Benjamin Netanyahu would not get him re-elected. That would leave him vulnerable to being convicted on the corruption charges on which he's currently being tried. So the war should be seen as a life support system for the government that's keeping Mr. Netanyahu in power and potentially out of jail.